Okay, so welcome to Kauffman Museum. My name is Andy Schmidt-Andrus, and I'm the director here. We have some other staff members present. We have Austin Prouty working our live streaming, and also some of the technical parts here live today. And John Fast, a new employee, is in the back for those that are actually in the building. And also we have Elizabeth Friesen up at the front desk and Adel Miller at the front door. So just introducing a few folks that you might see around the building today. And we're very glad you could come, for those of you who are in person, and we're very glad that those who are online at home are also able to join us. I'm going to make a few announcements now about other things coming up, and then we'll turn back to our program. And first thing I wanted to announce is that Celebrate Kansas Day will be on Saturday, January 29, 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, all sorts of activities inside and out at the museum. We have reduced the number of indoor activities, so we are socially distanced more, and more things will be happening outside, but that's January 29. We hope you can join us for that. And then as you've probably read, the Vapes Marketing and Addiction exhibit is up just through today at 4:30. It's been here since about July. And our next exhibit that will open up in February, and that's February 19, 2:30 to 4:30. We will have a grand opening for that. And the title for the exhibit, The Magic of Things, 5 Continents, 25 Centuries, and 125 Years of Collecting, is a great ensemble of artifacts chosen by former staff, former curators at Kauffman Museum, kind of an eclectic mix with some themes to carry the exhibit. So all sorts of interesting things, and it's celebrating 125 years of a museum at Bethel College. So 1896 is when the first museum was in a room of the ad building at Bethel College. So we hope you'll be able to come out on February 19, and then that will be up through the spring. Today, of course, we are going to be learning more about vaping and vapes, and that's with the exhibit Vapes Marketing and Addiction. And I do want to thank the exhibit team that worked very diligently last spring and many months before that. People involved in creating the exhibit were Cole Ediger, Michael Reinschmidt, Becca Schrag, Austin Prouty, Chuck Regier, Dave Kreider, and Rachel Panabecker. So thank you very much to that exhibit team that created this exhibit that will now begin traveling around the state. When it leaves Kauffman Museum, it will be going to Lyons, Kansas, and the Rice County Historical Society. I also want to take a moment to thank the organizations that were funders for that exhibit. We have the Kansas Creative Arts Industry Commission, NMC Health, Newton Etc. Shop, Kobe, and Butler Rural Electric Cooperative. So thank you very much to the sponsors that made Vapes Marketing and Addiction possible. And today we're very lucky to have a panel of high school students here, and they are going to be a part of a conversation about the rise of e-cigarettes that STAND, the organization, is doing to encourage their peers to make healthy choices. And with that, I will introduce the students that we have speaking today. Savannah Hunsucker from Newton, and I hope I get all their names right. Chase Zelmer from Sedgwick. You can all wave your hands when it's used so they know who's who. Clara Myers from Halstead, and then we have Amala John from Heston. So thank you very much. Some of the sponsors of STAND, Benjamin Meyer is here, and then also Rachel Engeldow is also here in the group today. We'll be hearing from Benjamin in just a moment. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started, and welcome to STAND.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to say, stand as mirrors, baby. I work in prevention, and we are really, really excited to be making the impacts that we're making, and we couldn't do it without these kids. Stand has over 140 at this point, over 140 students in 6 different school districts that are working to make an impact in their communities. So we're very, very excited about that. We believe that youth are a part of the solution in prevention. So this is just showing right here that they have the knowledge of what's happening in their communities and they have the ability to make an impact. So I'm excited for you to hear from them. I guess my first question will just be if you guys can go down the line and say what school you're from, like maybe your name again, what school you're from, and then why you joined STAND. Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
Hi, my name is Amla John. I'm a senior at Heston High School. I joined STAND. I didn't actually know that much about substance abuse when I was in middle school, but I ended up joining STAND because I thought, oh, clubs in high school, I want to join that so I can learn more about it. And through STAND, that's when I actually began to understand the needs at our school and the need for places for organizations like STAND.
I'm Clara Myers, and I'm a junior at Halst High School. And I joined STAND because I saw a need of student leadership within not only my school, but just within our county. And I wanted to be somebody who people knew as making a difference. And STAND was a great way because not only can I make a difference in my school, I can help other communities make a difference in theirs.
Hello, my name is Savannah Hunsucker, and I'm currently a senior at Newton High School. I joined STAND my freshman year because during my 8th grade year, we had some STAND students at the time when it was called VR come to our school and talk about prescription drugs and how we need to dispose of those in an efficient way. And I just thought it was really awesome that they were taking leadership within our community and just, trying to better the health and just make positive decisions within our community and just spread positivity. So I thought that was really cool and I wanted to be a part of it, and here I am today.
Hi, my name is Chase Zomer, and I go to Cedric, and I'm a sophomore. And so in my school, I've seen people who use alcohol and like vaping and stuff. And before, I've never been able to do anything about it. And then until I learned about Stan, one day we had at our school, we had people to presentate about Stan, and I've learned about all the things that they've been able to do. So I decided to join it so I can make a positive impact in my community.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Okay, so we'll just jump in with questions. We'll try to leave some time for questions from the audience as well. I think, do they have the ability to ask online as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So feel free to throw out questions online. Sorry, you guys have to keep your questions to yourself as we go, but we'll try to leave some time for questions for the kids as well. So the first question I have is, can you tell me, give us an idea of when vaping first started really blowing up? So tell me when you first started noticing it among your peers and what that looked like in your school or among your kids your age.
I first noticed I first noticed like when people were like vaping in my school, when like I would go to the bathroom and I would start seeing like puffs of smoke coming from the stalls, and throughout the whole bathroom I could like smell it. It was not a very pleasant sight, and I wanted to prevent that.
All right, so kind of the vaping fad started a little bit, and I would say probably the spring of 2018, whenever I was still in 8th grade. But it really blew up in about the fall of 2018. And so there was just a lot of talk about it, but I wasn't necessarily seeing it. And then definitely towards like the winter time of 2018, I was definitely seeing vaping within our school, like in the bathrooms where people would call it like the vape room, or at different school events like basketball games, students in the student section would pass around vaping devices and do it publicly. And I always thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, definitely 2018 is when we saw it start to blow up.
So for me, I saw it when I was in 8th grade, so that would have been 2019, I guess. And I remember I was in the weight room, and there was this boy that was my age, and he was like blowing smoke around everybody's faces. And that was like the first time I had ever seen it. And so I had absolutely no idea what to do or what to say. But now it looks like people will put it like vaping devices in their sleeves and will be doing it in the middle of class or the bathroom, which is again now the vape room, I guess. Or like even during school dances, you knew like if a group of boys went into the bathroom or a group of girls, you would know like exactly what they're doing. And it just it blew up really fast because in eighth grade again I had absolutely no idea what was happening. And then my freshman year of high school, I remember like you would see a group of people and you would know exactly like what was going to be happening like 5 minutes later.
So in my school, I wasn't really part of any circles that did vaping. I was pretty sheltered. I didn't really understand what was going on. But then I did hear a lot about the bathroom being called the vape room, and I did hear that whenever people were in the stall like together, they were vaping, and I did see that. I just didn't understand at the time what was going on, and I'd be like, "Ew, multiple people are in the bathroom stall together." And so that was what I saw in my school. Um, I've never actually seen someone do it like in public. So I never really had that big of an exposure to it. I don't think it's that big of a part of our school culture because I don't really see it around that often. Yeah.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a little bit of variance even just between different schools in our county. Okay, so a follow-up question, what happened, if you guys have an answer to this, what happened to make it sort of blow up around 2018, 2019?
For our school at least, it was social media. I remember just like seeing a whole bunch of people like posting it on their stories or snapping a picture of it, and like you would see a whole bunch of people using it. So I think it was the fact that it was the new norm and the new thing that was happening. Um, and it was something that everybody wanted to try because you saw all these popular people posting on their stories or making it seem like it was like a fun exciting thing to do, and so you had a whole bunch of like either underclassmen or just peers of those people that were doing it that wanted to see what it was like. And again, it doesn't take 100 times to get addicted to it. It sometimes it's just once. And so a lot of those people wanted to try it out and soon got addicted. And so that's what I think made it popular because people tried it once and then they're like, oh, this is awesome. And then it started to spread to their friends and their friend group. And then again, like our entire school blew up within like a year, I would say.
And to kind of bounce off of what Clara said, I believe, and there's evidence to show that marketing is kind of what made vaping really popular at the time that it kind of, began to show up in our community. There were influencers that were being sponsored to show different vaping products. And then there's just, social media, the impact that you can have to share things kind of increased the popularity as well. Yeah, and so for example, like the company Juul, they were specifically marketing to youth and younger individuals, and so they definitely had a lot of power within the e-cigarette market to increase the use of vape devices within youth and younger individuals.
I felt like it blew up because like some people would be like hanging out with the wrong crowd, and once like that crowd would like first learn about Juul, it started spreading like a virus. They would show all their friends, and then their friends would show the other friends, and then I guess after that, it just started blowing up.
Yeah, Clara, you touched on addiction. And this is a question that we didn't prepare for, but I had, do you feel like the understanding that there was something in the vapes that was addictive, do you feel like that was there at all? Like, do you feel like students understood that? Anybody?
Oh, I feel like the first time they used it, they were like, oh, well, everybody's doing this. So I don't feel like they necessarily did it to the fact that they were going to get addicted. And I don't feel like that really came across in the ads that it was going to be an addictive substance. But again, people did get addicted. And I don't think that that was the initial initial plan. They were just doing it to show everybody, like, look how cool I am, and then that's when it did lead to addiction, and many people aren't able to just stop. So.
I also know that for a lot of people, it was considered like, oh, it's better than smoking, it's better than this, it's better than that. But it didn't necessarily mean it was good, right? And so a lot of people, they thought it was harmless just because it wasn't as bad as so many other things. And so then when they did get addicted, it was like, I thought it wasn't that bad, but now I can't stop.
And of course, at first there was like a little bit of flashback about vape use, like because it does contain nicotine, they were kind of warning people a little bit about it. But because at first and initially there wasn't a lot of research on the effects of vaping, and still now there isn't a ton of research, but it's increasing, there wasn't really substantial evidence necessarily to show the effects of vaping to youth and anyone that decided to vape. So there wasn't really, well, there was somewhat something that could have deterred people from vaping, but then again, you try it and then it sometimes takes a little bit of nagging to get you to understand the effects of it.
Awesome. So bring us up to now. So 2022, I guess we're now in 2022. What does vaping look like in your school? Is it still an issue? What do you see?
I feel like vaping is still an issue, but over I guess, probably the recent year, is actually starting to see like a positive incline and decreased amounts of vaping. It's probably due to like seniors and stuff. The previous seniors were like a big part of the vaping community, and as they left, the people who were younger started getting less impacted on them. And as like Stan came by and started helping out the like, students who were previously affected by it, it started eliminating the amount of people who were vaping.
At my school in particular, and from what I understand, vaping has definitely decreased in use over the last couple of years. Whether that be our impact or just like new research that's happened. However, I did see this fall a lot of use of e-cigarette devices increase a lot, and then the faculty at our school was able to do like busts almost, and they found a lot of devices. Now, whether they just happened to catch the few people that were doing it, or it's spread through a lot of people, I wasn't really quite able to grasp whether it was blowing back up again or not. But yeah, definitely it's something that increases and decreases over time with different like product releases and things that may seem to be like cool.
For my community in my school, I feel like it's the opposite of the previous two. I feel like we've had an increase of it in our school. We just got a whole new branch of administration. And I feel like that has definitely played a factor in the spike of the use of vaping devices, because it's kind of like, oh, we don't. Our new administration came in, and I feel like a lot of people were kind of like, oh, this is our time to, do whatever we want. But I've definitely seen people are very sneaky with how they do it. There was one day that I was in the library, and our drug dogs came, and people were just putting their vaping devices behind books and stuff, because if they don't find it on you, they can't necessarily say it's yours. And I just remember I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I didn't really realize that people were like, people you would never even have thought would have done something like this, like star athletes, or people that you just don't expect. It's always the ones you least expect. And so for at least me and my school, not me, but my school, we have definitely seen an increase of it. And our school is really trying to not catch the people, but just eliminate it altogether and stop the increase of it.
Yeah, I think vaping does continue to be a problem at our school. I think that it's one of those issues that doesn't go away that quickly or easily, because high schoolers will be high schoolers. And it's not necessarily that high schoolers don't understand the negatives of doing things like this, but research has shown that high schoolers just feel like the positives, the short-term benefits are worth the cost. And so things like this, it's just not easy to go away real quickly.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that two of you in two different schools mentioned that there have been more, if I can call them busts. And it seems, excuse me, it seems like there has been an increase in your school, but it may be that administration is finally starting to crack down, like Clara said, which is great. Just trying to catch up with it. I might change the next question a little bit. It says, are there any specific vape devices that stand out to you as the most popular? If you don't have an answer to that, maybe you can answer. We know that the most vapes, like 98 to 99% of vapes contain nicotine. But there's also a new craze of vaping. It's not very new, I guess. It's been a couple years, but vaping marijuana. Can you tell me if the majority of vaping in your school is marijuana or nicotine? And then also, if you know of any devices that are the most popular or want to talk about those, mention that.
Yeah, so I don't actually know any of the vaping devices at our school.
So I'm gonna have an answer for both. Looking at kind of like the pricing of the different vaping devices, most in my school we have Enjoys, which is like a little like circular black, like I don't even know honestly, but it's $8 for the device and $9 for the pods, and so it's really cheap for students because they'll find somebody who had graduated recently and they'll be like, it's just an exchange of whatever. And like puff bars are literally $3. So it's not expensive for these high school students to be able to use. But for at least for my school, and I wasn't really aware of this because when I thought of vaping, I just thought of jewels and nicotine. But for the most part, my school struggles with marijuana. You'll see so many pens in school, and we have to like have a new protocol on how students and teachers can recognize them. So, you can see it in somebody's pocket. I mean, it literally looks like a pen. It's like a stick. It looks like a pencil or pen that's in somebody's pocket. But we've had many people get busted for marijuana, and which is an illegal substance. And so that's what I think that we need to stray away from is that some of these kids, at least at my school, are throwing their lives away at a young age of like 16 or 17 just because they can't stop. And those kids, like 17 is a very young age, so they still have so much of their future left. And so I think marijuana is something that our school is really trying to get away from because with it being a legal substance, so many people are getting in trouble, especially with the law and stuff.
So the rise in THC and devices is definitely prevalent in our school. I remember our principal at our local coalition meeting showed us some images of all of the things they collected from these busts, and a lot of them included THC in the devices, or they were made for THC, or they were the pods or whatnot that would go into those. It definitely is pretty alarming to see that the THC is rising just because marijuana, at least at my school, has always been very prevalent. But the fact that it's in a vaping device that it can be hidden very well, it can be very discreet, that's pretty alarming. And so to touch on just like what vaping devices I've seen like the Enjoys, and then I've also seen devices that are similar to the original like juuling devices that are shaped like a flash drive, and as I said, just very discreet.
I have personally never seen any specific types of vaping, but according to just looking around and people who I've seen vape and stuff, like doing the stalls and stuff, I do believe it's more nicotine based than marijuana.
So while you guys were talking, you guys mentioned Juul several times. Juul is a pretty much just constant, like the base vape. So can somebody tell us just a little bit about what you know about Juul?
I know a little bit about Juul. Again, they are kind of the base line for nicotine devices, like e-cigarette devices. They are the people that kind of, for instance, blew this up, I guess, with their marketing skills. Um, so yeah, they were able to spread everything pretty quickly, and as I said earlier, they directly marketed to youth, and so they were pretty recognized for that, and that's about as much as I know.
Yeah, Jewel kind of changed the game. I don't know if you guys have seen the vaping exhibit, but there's an example Jewel there. It looks like a flash drive, which you usually save documents on your computer. Conveniently, it actually charges like one in on your computer, so you can plug it into your computer. It was super sleek. People called it the Apple like iPhone, like the iPhone of vapes. So it sort of changed the whole vaping game. That's why we're here. So if they keep mentioning Jewel, I just wanted to point that out. Let's see. So can somebody talk about, if you know, why students your age or why your peers are choosing to vape?
Honestly, most students, like when they come to vape, it's like most people who are like kind of like off the, I guess I would say popular inside, like side of the group, and so they try to fit in with them, and so they'll start like vaping to act cool, but they don't consider the consequences of vaping. But that's, I feel like the main reason is most people are just trying to act cool.
I would agree, and the marketing and everything definitely played into the cool factor. Um, and then I would also have to say that students or individuals that choose to vape are looking for that like initial high effect, and they often think that it helps increase their mental health and those kind of things, but in reality, that is not the case.
I think it has a lot to do with COVID. And I know that's what everybody blames everything on now, but I feel like during quarantine, I saw more people making wrong mistakes, whether it was drinking or vaping or just doing anything of the sorts, because they had no consequences. Like we didn't know when we were going back to school or anything like that. And I think students, especially at my school, are like stressed due to COVID because I mean I'm a junior in high school and this is the first year that I felt a sense of normalcy, I guess, because my freshman year got cut in half. Last year we were hybrid, we would wear masks, like it's just not normal. And I think a lot of kids, it's stressing them out. Like we're not getting this high school experience. And so almost that escape that they get from it, whether because again, like Savannah said, like they get that initial high and where it's like everything is rainbows and butterflies and that's what they think is fantastic, well then they come crashing 10 times harder and then they come to the surface and they're like, oh, and then that's when they keep like diving down and using them again because they love the feeling of just constantly feeling happy and um but then again like then the high wears off and they feel like, oh well everything's 10 times worse. So I feel like honestly, just being stressed out and feeling like there's no escape from everything is the main reason why kids at my school use it.
Yeah, I would totally have to agree. Like the past few years at our school, the mental health of everyone in school has been suffering so much. You can tell from people's faces, especially from teachers last year, because teachers with a new hybrid schedule were feeling kind of overworked and they had to do their classes twice the amount that they normally do them. So you could see that most teachers are kind of like everyone had more of like a deadened gaze and people they would joke about it more, but you could tell so many more people were struggling with mental health and anxiety because of COVID. And so I feel like even even vaping, things like addiction, these things did seem to be more like people would be more willing to do things like this. But even addiction in like normal life, like to the internet and things like that, people were just they didn't feel very productive. They didn't feel like they were doing a lot, and so they just weren't very productive. And they weren't doing too much, and so it was just like a downward spiral last year.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. It kind of brings us to our next question. I don't know if there's anything to add between the relationship between vaping and COVID and mental health. Does anybody have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what we've said a little bit, like there's evidence to show that vaping decreases like your mental stability, and there's evidence that shows that it increases anxiety and depression levels. And I've definitely seen that among like different groups of students in my school who have decided to use different vaping and e-cigarette devices. And then kind of how we said earlier, THC, like marijuana substances, just increases that negativity level as well. And as I said, like it's even more, like it's increasingly worrisome that these different additives are just able to kind of increase the negative effects. And while they may initially increase the positive effects, make you happy, it's still in the end going to make you feel kind of crummy. And there's definitely that wrong connotation between vaping and your mental health. As I said, you know, you think you're going to get that initial, you think you're going to have the initial high forever, but it's the initial high, it's going to wear off.
Anyone else? That was really good. Thank you guys for bringing that up. This is sort of a general question. What are some things that you guys have learned about vaping just over the last couple of years?
I've learned that like when it comes to like vaping, most people who are like tend to vape are people who are not mentally healthy. So I feel like that's one of the biggest factors that play into like kids starting to vape and continuing to vape.
So I've learned a lot about vaping within my 4 years in high school and then coinciding with being in stand. I recently wrote an essay for my English composition class. It was a cause and effect essay, and I decided to write about the effects of vaping on the human body. And so, um, and so there's so many effects that you don't realize. One of the biggest one, whenever your brain is creating synapses, and just different connections, vaping rapidly increases the creation of those. And so with that, it increases the addiction rates and the prevalency of addiction among those who use them. And then also like different problems within your lungs. There's different things like popcorn lung or a volley. And then there's some effects within the heart. There's not a lot of current research about it, but it shows that it increases the rate of an individual having a heart attack because it's increasing your adrenaline and other chemicals within your body, and that's getting you excited, increasing your blood pressure, and thus the chances for having a heart attack are higher. And then another thing that I actually learned about was like the effects on your esophagus. Esophagitis is really prevalent among those who vape. It increases like lacerations and staining and like burns almost within your esophagus and in your throat and just anywhere that these chemicals and things are being ingested. And so there's a lot more effects of vaping on your body than you really realize. And it's something that is increasingly being talked about, but maybe not enough. And it's kind of sad that for some people, obtaining like a volley or popcorn lung or having a heart attack is what it takes to get them to stop, or maybe it won't. So yeah, that's one of the main things I've learned about vaping, and just like Chase said, just coinciding with mental health, it seems to be among people who already have like worse mental health, or it increases the worseness of one's mental health.
So going in high school, I literally had absolutely no idea really what vaping was until I was introduced to stand, and then I kind of learned like all the negative parts about it. Like I knew obviously it wasn't a positive thing that was happening within the world, but I just learned that how easy it was that like people were hiding it. Like I had no idea that like all of these people in my school were doing it like in the middle of class. You know, whether that was asking to go to the bathroom or whether it was in our locker rooms or you know, again, like in her sleep or just I had absolutely no idea. And my sister actually is a nurse and a EMT, and she was talking about how they see it a lot in older adults too. Like older adults are getting introduced to it. And popcorn lung, like Savannah says, has been a major issue. And she said that that hasn't really happened since like, the late 1970s. And so seeing that make its way back, because you know the whole thing about like juuling and vaping is like, oh well, it's worse or it's better than for you than like cigarettes. Well, it's not, and you aren't going to see necessarily the side effects right when you do it. But again, like this is such a new concept that we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen to these kids in like 20 to 30 years. And that's what I think is the scariest part is like seeing my peers, like you want, a lot of them have a future plan, would like a family, but it's kind of scary to know that these kids in my school might not get to see their kids like grow up because of a decision they made when they were 17 years old. So I just think honestly, just learning how much people actually do it and like how many people do it, because really it's always like you said, like the people you least expect. And yeah.
So Stan has definitely taught me a lot about vaping and things like that, especially when it comes to prevention factors, like how important it is to have a strong family at home who clearly sets values, things that might not be as common nowadays, and how important it is to have a school culture, to have teachers that support kids and have high expectations for their kids, and to have peers that feel the same way. These are all very important prevention factors that don't really get talked about that often and can be easily overlooked. And another thing that I learned about vaping is actually through my psychology class on how vaping affects the brain. And so, whenever addictive substances give, especially teenage brains, a high, their brains can't keep up with it, so it's almost an overload. And so, natural highs, well, your brain will will reduce your natural highs to make up for the amount of chemical highs that they're receiving. And so, once you stop, your brain, especially at a teenager age, won't really have the ability to give natural highs. And this can really severely affect someone's mental health, as whenever they try and do things, try and do their hobbies, they won't have any more motivation, they won't have any more natural high. And so they suddenly can't feel like they can do any of their hobbies. They don't find joy in a lot of things that don't provide that chemical high. And that makes it very hard for them to stop doing things like vaping.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna throw an extra question in here if you guys have an answer. You talked about mental health and you talked about some of the effects of vaping. What are some things that the people in this room, the people in our communities, the adults in everyone's lives, what are some things that they can do to help reduce vaping or to help with mental health?
Honestly, like I feel like the most like mental health, obviously with COVID was a really big part because we were all kind of in isolation. Like you were by yourself, you couldn't hang out with people. And I think it was the fact that a lot of us didn't have somebody necessarily to listen to us. I feel like we all talk at 100 miles an hour. I mean, I could sit up here and talk about my entire life within 20 minutes. But it's almost the fact that a lot of these students, especially within our schools and our communities, and maybe it happens within adults, is that we feel like we have people who listen to us but don't comprehend what we're trying to say. And I feel like now, especially that as like high school students, we're kind of getting overlooked with all like COVID. They're kind of like, oh well, again, it's not really affecting students that much because a lot of us, aren't really getting that super sick from it. That's basically, it's older people and middle-aged people. And so I feel like we're kind of getting overlooked in the sense of like, we haven't had like I have not had a normal year of high school. And like when I was little and growing up and watching like High School Musical and like seeing like the high school life, I was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot wait for that. And this is my high school life, like vaping, um, you know, kids getting caught by drug dogs, drug dogs being a normal part of our life. Um, what the CDC, like watching the news being like, do I have to wear a mask to school tomorrow, or are we going to be online, or what's happening. I don't think really students have somebody genuinely to comprehend them. And so I think honestly, just looking around at your peers and your students or your kids or your grandchildren or whatever, whoever it might be, just when you ask them about their day, instead of just being like, oh, okay, awesome, like maybe listen to comprehend, don't necessarily listen to respond. Because I feel like each and every one of us genuinely just need somebody that'll listen to us and understand what we're going through and just have sympathy. And I feel like that will really bring down the vaping issue, because then people aren't going to substances or drugs to escape from it. Instead, they can rather face their problems head on and realize, like, okay, take a deep breath, it'll all be okay.
One thing that I think adults and individuals in any student's life or any other individual's life, something that they can do is just set standards, set limits and ideals for what you want for that individual. So if it be a parent setting a standard for their student, they could say, I don't want you to vape. Simply saying something like that just really decreases the, idea of like just trying things, just experimenting. And so also like just being there to listen, like Clara said, if you have somebody that genuinely understands what you're trying to say or just wants to have have the best for you in your life, knowing that you have someone there, that's really beneficial. And kind of the majority of what we've said so far is that mental health coincides with vaping. And so whatever you can do to increase the positivity within your life, that's very important.
So I think a lot of people who are struggling with vaping, one of the things is that whenever people tell them to stop, it's not really for the individual, but just the whole idea of, oh, people shouldn't be vaping, like the whole overarching idea that, oh, it's bad for you. But a lot of people who are actually vaping have problems of like, these are concrete problems that no one's actually helping me with. I'm just being told to stop vaping. And so it's easy for kids to not take adults seriously because they're being told to stop, but the stuff that's actually happening in their life isn't stopping. And so that's one thing. And another thing is that most students, they need both the support and the expectation. And sometimes students have one or the other, and that can lead to it spiraling really. And yeah.
So I just want to say that I'm like standing up here grinning like a proud father. I feel like I have 140 adopted kids all over the county, and I could not be more happy. And they are wise beyond their years, just based on that last answer from all of them. So the last question that I want everybody to talk about, if you can, what are some things that you're really proud of being a part of with Stand? What's something that you have been able to accomplish because of Stand, or that you're wanting to accomplish before you're done with Stand?
Yeah, so STAND is such a great organization. I'm so proud to be part of this organization because substance abuse is one of those issues where it feels like there's not a lot you can do about it. It's so easy to be like, oh, it's just something that happens and it's not going to go away because people will be people and they're bad people and that's it. But being able to create like concrete, like tangible changes in our area. I'm part of an organization called Defy. We've been able to do so much through that. My freshman year in STAND, I helped create a law in Heston that banned cigarettes in parks. Now, that is a concrete thing that someone can do to help prevent substance abuse. And being able to do that as a freshman in high school, like being a tiny freshman speaking to the city council, that was so empowering to be like, yes, we can make a change. This isn't just an issue that happens, it isn't just an issue that has to just be accepted. We can make actual changes in our community to make a difference. And STAND is just such a powerful organization in that way, giving that ability, like I can do something to any high schooler. I think that's really important.
For me, my favorite part about being a part of Stand is that like, yes, we focus on, like, okay, we want to eliminate the drug and alcohol prevention or eliminate the drug and alcohol use. But it's not only like we're like nagging you, and I don't feel like being a part of stand, it's not so much like, okay, well, these are all the bad things that can happen to you, like just stop. It's more like we are trying to give you a positive alternative to it. So like instead of vaping on a Friday night, let's do something else. And I think that gives students like it's eye opening whenever we're like, okay, well, instead of doing this, let's do this. Or like, okay, instead of somebody telling me to just stop, they're giving me something else to do because, a lot of healing comes from distractions. Um, and so, just giving them a distraction from that specific thing is really what students are needing. And I think just honestly having a voice within my community, I've been part of STAND since my freshman year. And I feel like even if we only have helped one person or two people, like it has been one person or two people. Like I don't care whether we help the entire school or I could help one person. Um, it's fulfilling to realize like what we are putting in plan today is not only helping people currently, but it's also helping the future of my school. Um, and so, like I love having people come up to me like and asking about stand or asking how to join stand randomly in the middle of the year because they see like the impacts we're making and see the things we're doing and they want to do that. And most of our stand is athletes and I guess you can say, like quote unquote, like we have like, athletes and like people that are already impacting our school as it is. And it's so awesome to see all the freshmen coming in being like, oh, well, our star quarterback is in stand. Like, I want to be part of stand. And just seeing the impact that we have on other students is like absolutely wonderful.
I get really excited when I get to talk about what STAND has done and what I've been able to do through STAND. I sometimes feel like the poster child for STAND and how you can take so many opportunities that come within it. I remember my freshman year just simply having the opportunity to speak to other students and individuals within our community. Like Amala said, it's really empowering to kind of have the idea reinforce that you as a high school student, as an individual, have the power to create change. I'm also part of our local coalition, Harvey County Defy or Drug Free Youth. And through that, we're also doing things along with different sectors of our community of educate adults. So educate parents on how they can, help their students with mental health and those kind of things. And then also I've been able to network a lot within STAND and the opportunities that we've been given. And that's honestly one of my favorite parts is I get to meet new people, I get to do new things. And for example, networking within like the medical sector of our community, I was able to be the first individual from Harvey County to be an ambassador for the American Heart Association. So that was really cool opportunity that arose through STAND. And then also I'm able to be at the state level with the Kansas Governor's Behavioral Health Services Planning Council. That's a long one. And just to know that I have impact within my own community, like in my own county, but at the state level. That's really exciting to know that I can be a voice for the rest of the youth in the state. And although while that can be a little bit scary to know that you are kind of being the voice for other youth, it's also exciting because it's a really amazing opportunity. And just to be a part of STAND when we are really making an impact, and prevention, it's just kind of a ordeal that it's hard to see the fruits of your labor immediately. And while we can't say that we directly, made an impact, within numbers, whenever we look at the Kansas Communities That Cares data, we like to think that we affected the numbers whenever they start to decrease. And, while maybe that's not exactly what happened, it's nice to know that we are making an impact and we're impacting other organizations to talk about prevention and mental health and all of those things too.
I've been excited to like help with like mental healthness because that's like what goes around in our school the most. And so I've been seeing like people like the new stand members. They've seen how much we've impacted them, like the people who have been not mentally healthy. And I've actually had heard of a couple members been actually like really so excited to know when the next stand member is or meeting is and what new events we have upcoming. And people have just been so excited about that. And one of the things I want to see like throughout my 10 years is like someone who's like not been the most mentally healthy have a big smile on their face when they come to school.
That's awesome. Thank you guys. I think we have about 10 minutes left. I don't know if there are any questions on Zoom or any questions in the room that they can answer. Or does anybody have any?
Question, especially for those who are seniors, what happens after they graduate from high school now? When they go on, do they continue being members of STAN? Do they take some of this with them? Or what happens for those who graduate from the senior this coming spring now?
So I'll repeat. I don't know if I need to repeat it over the mic. Okay. So for the seniors, what happens once you graduate, or how does your impact, or how are you continuing your impact with STAN?
All right, so after we graduate, we're no longer a part of STAND directly, but we are STAND alumni, so we are able to come to events and help out. For example, Ben Bollinger, who is from Heston, he graduated last year, and he came and helped out. He came and helped out with our 5th quarter event that we had at the YMCA. And for example, Eli Reddington is in the room today, and he comes and he's very supportive, because this is almost kind of his baby too, if you will. So yeah, just being supportive of the things that are going on in our community. And for me personally, I plan on going to college out of state, and so that'll be a little bit difficult to find new initiatives and like local coalitions and things, but I definitely look forward to making an impact somewhere else and then potentially coming back here to use what I've learned and continue to make an impact in my community.
Yeah, so like Savannah said, once we're out of here, we'll be alumni, so we'll continue to help. And yeah, in college, I love fighting for this cause because the cause for substance abuse disorder, it's not just a cause to stop substance abuse. It also involves mental health, and that is such an important cause to fight for within, like especially for teenagers, because this is such an important part of their lives. And many teenagers can agree that it's very confusing. There's so much to think about, especially with COVID. They've had so many things happen in their life and so many things that they just need the support, right? And so being able to help teenagers who are struggling with mental health always makes me feel so happy to be able to make that kind of change in their lives. And definitely in college, I'll be finding ways to do this sort of community service because it really does. I love people, I like helping people, and this is one way that you can really help someone in need.
Awesome. I love that we have so many solid seniors and so many kids that are wanting to stay involved. Thank you for the great question. As the youth leadership program manager over STAND, I can say STAND is just about 5 years old. So like Savannah is not like from the first year of STAND, but she's been in it for 4 years. So like we're gonna want to keep her around. Eli's in the room. He helped us like since he was in 8th grade. So we're really excited to have those kids that want to continue to be a part of STAND, and we're looking at ways to involve them. Like Ben was able to come and help. Eli, I know that I've reached out to you, I don't know how many times in your first semester of college, for questions or like if you have advice for the current STAND members. The purpose of STAND, the reason it's in high school is because we know that if we can prevent use through the age of 18, the likelihood of them having a substance use anything disorder goes way, way down. So this is a huge time period of support, but that doesn't mean that we can't have them connected, and we're looking at ways to do that outside of high school as well.
Can you say a little bit more? I know you alluded to talking to students that are younger than high school, what you do with that.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about talking to students that are younger than you?
So last year, me and some of the board members from Halstead, we went over to the middle school and we played a giant Kahoot, which a Kahoot is kind of like a quiz game. It'll like show a question on the screen, and then all our students had their Chromebooks and they were able to answer questions, and they were directly targeted towards vaping. And it was surprising how many questions they knew. But it was almost like we do fun things with them. So they're like, oh, like Stan fun things with them. So they're like, oh, like Stan is fun. Like this year we're going and we're gonna play Family Feud. So we're doing like a game show with them. And I think giving them like the opportunity to be introduced to kind of stand before they get into high school is wonderful, because when we did it last year, we had so many freshmen join because they simply just knew about it. A lot of clubs, you get into high school and when you're signing up on your first day, you're like, oh, well, I don't know what this is, but I guess it's fine. And I think just kind of introducing them at a younger age and making them known to the problems that are happening within our school gives them the opportunity to help themselves before, they get into high school and they're faced with all of that. And for most of the I guess our county and our school, it starts in junior high. And so kind of going over there and telling them like, hey, like we hit this hard, like we want you guys to realize like what is happening. It's kind of almost like a shock to them, like, oh, we were just doing this for fun. And then they realize like, oh, and so they come to us for help. And we've had so many freshmen this year like come individually to our board members for help and kind of a way to get out of it. And so I just honestly think introducing it to them at a younger age, and we're thinking about even going younger and going like 6th and 5th grade, because it does start so young, just to kind of like lay down the facts in front of them and not almost scare them, but kind of in a way be like, this is exactly what's happening in our world, and give them a reason not to.
And to bounce off of that again, for each school, it's a little bit different on how we present to like middle schoolers and then different youth. For example, over the summer, we were able to travel to Beloit, and we were able to speak to like a camp of students who were like learning some leadership qualities. And so that was one way that we were able to, speak to youth, and they were all different ages. And then for Newton in particular, we go to Chisholm Middle School and we split up between classrooms, and we're able to have whatever presentation that we decide to do on a smaller level, which makes it really personable. And one of the main ideas and like focuses that we have is to introduce these middle schoolers to somebody that they're able to look up to whenever they go to high school. So like, for instance, when I was in middle school, I saw like these cool football players or cheerleaders, and I was like, hey, they're so cool. But to know somebody that isn't maybe in one of those sports, for example, like myself, I get introduced to a lot of younger kids. And so like, for example, I've had different students who I've presented to whenever they were in 8th grade come up to me in high school, and they know me, so they're ready to ask questions about like where something is, or how something goes, or what a class is like. And so that's really important, not only to the students but to us, just to know that that's just one way we've made an impact, is just to have somebody be known. Yeah, I'll take it from the other perspective. As a middle schooler, hearing that, it made a difference for me. I remember being like, whoa, I did not know any of this stuff in this presentation. And so I remember in middle school, that was one of the reasons that I joined STEM. I was like, oh, this is what that is? Oh, okay. And these presentations at the middle schoolers really does make a difference for a lot of people.
The nice factor about our school is our high school and our middle school is in the same building. So when we like plan and do events for our high school, it also affects the middle school at the same time. But off subject, for our 5th grade, we have like a different program. It's called like a DARE program, and we would have an officer come to our classroom and you talk about all the consequences of drinking and doing drugs and stuff like that. It'd be really cool how it affected like the young students at a really young age.
Yeah, I know we're out of time. I just want to add one thing to their question, I don't know if we have time to take another question. Somebody have another question? Okay. Okay, so yes, each one of our schools that are involved with STAND, each one of our 6 high schools, actually the team goes to their middle school in their town and does a presentation about being drug-free. I can come in as an adult to middle schoolers and be like, don't do drugs. They're not gonna listen to me. They will listen to the cool older kids. And so not only are they super smart and wise beyond their years and willing to share their experiences, but they also then are a role model that they can see that in high school. So it serves twofold, and I will honestly say that's why we've experienced such growth in the last few years is because of those middle school presentations. Raise your hand if you joined because we came and presented to you in middle school. Yeah, so 4 out of 4. It really does, it does a huge difference, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, that's cool to hear. Val, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say that I think that your stories are humbling and inspirational to people in the community. And what is especially affects me as an adult is that you're action oriented. You don't just go to a meeting and sit around and talk about what you might want to do or spend your life making plans. You're actually out there hitting the ground and getting something done. And so thank you for that. And then I just wondered if perhaps maybe a couple of the underclassmen, how do you think that STAND is going to affect your life as an adult looking forward?
I feel like STAND will like always be like a part of me when I'm older. Like I'll always like know about STAND, and I guess it will mainly impact like when I'm older and I have kids and stuff. And I feel like it would help a lot with that and be able to teach my kids correctly.
Going along with what he said is honestly helping my kids, like changing my kids' future. Because if I do choose to have kids, I don't want them to be raised in a world where it's so like it's so readily available for them to do these things. Like I want to stop it now to where when I'm a parent and I have kids, like this isn't something that they have to worry about. And I not only want to change my generation, but the generations on. And so making a difference now stops or can help people now, but it can also help people in the future. And so I just think just making a difference in other generations and stopping it now is how I plan to help my community.
Although I'm not an underclassman, STAND has taught me so many tangible skills that I'll be able to use in the future. Different leadership skills like networking. That's something that's really valuable as you go into your career. Public speaking, although I wasn't too keen on it at first, I speak to people regularly now, and it's something that I enjoy. And just you know, being able to, as I said earlier, know that you're making an impact, that will always be with me as I go into my future career and my life, just knowing that whatever I'm doing, I can fight for the cause, and that's really important to me, and I'll take that with me forever.
Well, now I feel like I have to say something. Everyone else said something. Well, I think that STAND, even though this is something that we're doing in high school, this isn't something that's limited to high schoolers. Like what we're doing, this can be done by anyone. And I'll definitely be continuing to try to support others beyond high school. I'll be trying to make a difference, specifically talking to people who are struggling with mental health, providing some sort of support for them. These aren't things that are limited to just STAND members. Anyone can do these things, even you guys. So this is definitely not a cause that is specifically limited to a specific number of people. There's not necessarily that many like certifications or something you need to be able to help people. This is something that just the average everyday old person can do. And so that is really inspiring to me, something I can take on for the rest of my life.
Awesome, that's a great note to end on. Thank you guys so much for coming on a weekend. Thank you guys for giving your time on a weekend and for supporting these kids. Thank you.
You should be a very proud father. This is fantastic. You all are great, and I only wish you absolutely the best of luck in the future. It's been really inspiring to hear you talk. So much. Thank you so much. And a great way to end our time here was the vapes exhibit. So really good send off as it goes to travel around. So thank you all for coming, and we hope we can see you coming out of Kansas Day and other events also.